This episode of the BJJ Foxcast is brought to you by BioPro. BioPro is an all-natural alternative to prescription human growth hormone, which aids in recovery, anti-aging, metabolism, libido, immunity, skin health, cognition, sleep, and stress. Just one vial per day provides a substantial boost to all of these growth factors. Okay, so that's what they want me to say. Here's what I know as an aging grappler. I've been using BioPro Plus and the nighttime variant, BioPro Plus Cortisleep, for several months, and it feels like I've grown a third lung. My gas tank is noticeably bigger, my recovery is faster, and I'm back on the mats much quicker, not just between training sessions, but between rounds. Now you can get $30 off your first order of BioPro when you use the code FOXCAST at www.bioproteintech.com. That's code FOXCAST for $30 off your first order at www.bioproteintech.com. Thank you, BioPro. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BJJ Foxcast. I am your host, Alex Martinez, and today I have a very special guest. I have Elaine Wynn on the show. Elaine has been married for 55 years to her high school sweetheart. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Is a full-time mother of 3, grandmother to 7 kids. She's a judo practitioner, a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Professor Kaliffa Oliveira. Is that I say it right?
Kaliffa Oliveira.
Kaliffa Oliveira.
Kaliffa Oliveira.
Kaliffa Oliveira. Multiple time medalist in the biggest tournaments in the world and currently ranked number 6 in her division. Elaine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's get right to it. 7 grandkids. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I have 1 and 2, 2 is on the way. So I'm very excited about that. So tell me about how you married your high school sweetheart, and I'm assuming that you guys started having kids like early in your life.
Fairly early.
Early. So how old were you when you had your first grandchild?
First grandchild?
Yeah.
I think I was 50.
Yeah. So was I.
When I had my first. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So mine ranged from 25 to 4.
Oh,
4 years old. There's a wide range.
Yeah. Now, do they all live close by you? Are you guys really close?
They do.
That's so great.
In fact, one of them or 2 of them live right next door to me.
Oh, that's so cool.
Close.
Now, is that because I read somewhere that you were on 100 acres and you were selling, and now you're on a smaller property closer to the kids? Is that the property that you're on now?
Yes. Yeah, we're about 34 acres, so we downsize, but we have horses, dogs, cats. It's a farm.
Yeah. I have some students that one of my students, he's I think he's maybe 7, and he always comes up to give me updates on his chickens. Updates on the I get him almost daily. It's hilarious. He has chickens and he has ducks, and I don't know how familiar you are with homeowners associations, but they're not particular fans of having chickens and ducks. So he has to tell me, like, Coach, you won't believe it, one of them's a rooster. We got to get rid of him.
Well, our homeowners, everybody has farmland, so they don't care.
Yeah.
But my daughter has chickens over there, and my other daughter has bees and chickens.
Yeah.
Horses, dogs, cats.
Did you grow up in Alabama?
I did.
You did? Okay. And growing up, like, say, what were you doing in high school, and were you doing any kind of sports or anything? What was your thing back in the day?
Well, mainly I was a cheerleader, and I was in chemistry class when I met my husband, and from there, that's really all I thought about. I learned a lot of chemistry. It wasn't particularly in the class, but nevertheless.
That's cool. Now, I also read somewhere that your husband, his family immigrated from Germany, I think.
They did when he was 6 years old. So he actually started first grade. He didn't speak a word of English.
Wow.
The teacher didn't speak German. His parents didn't speak English. He had to learn on his own. And he didn't have any accent. That early, you don't usually have an accent in either language. So,
right. Yeah.
It's rather impressive to me. I mean, really, his mother said by Christmas he could go to the store and tell people what they wanted.
Oh,
That's
wow.
4 months. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, that's amazing. And so you guys met in high school. Did you guys marry like right out of high school, like graduation and then marriage?
No, he went to Auburn on a track scholarship, and I went to business school and then just worked. We married the summer for his senior year.
Gotcha.
So we were married his senior year, and then he did master's work a year before we came back to Birmingham.
Okay. Okay.
We were saving our money to get married.
Oh, that's cool. That's smart. Yeah, that's really smart. Now, tell me about judo. You did judo for a minute, and then yeah, tell me about that. Tell me about how did judo come about?
That he was doing his master's work, and he was working a lot at night studying and this, so I was bored, and there a judo course came up, and one of his friends said, I'll do that with you. So we went and took about a 6-week course of judo. I loved it, but we got back to Birmingham and nobody taught it.
Wow.
So and I didn't find out till I was 69 that Kaliffa taught judo, of course, and jiu-jitsu at his gym. So I called over and they said I could come. So I did.
What was your first impression when you walked in there? I mean, you had a background in judo, so you kind of knew the deal, but it must have been a little scary. Don't you? Tell me about that.
I really didn't know a whole lot about judo, except that 1 or 2 throws actually worked. But when I got there, he's got a very nice gym. He moved. He was in a smaller gym, somewhat smaller, and he's moved to a really large gym now. But the judo, I mean, I was the only girl.
Wow.
And there were teenage boys, there were men, and there was me. And I was 69, and they run you around the mat, and do all that. I was so good.
Yeah.
And I think I scared him half to death. He kept saying, don't throw her. And I'm going, I'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So you did judo for a little while, and then you were introduced to jiu-jitsu at the same academy.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the mats were side by side, and he would just move over and do the jiu-jitsu over there after his judo class. So I did both for a while, and then I sort of stuck with jiu-jitsu mainly.
Yeah. Now what
it fits me better?
Yeah. Yeah. I watched some of your training sessions, some of your video, and you don't seem like a person that makes a lot of excuses as to why you can't train. You hit it pretty hard. How many days a week are you training?
Usually 2 to 3. Now for Worlds, I was going 4 or 5 days a week for several weeks, trying to get ready.
Yeah.
But normally we live about 40 minutes from the gym, and my husband's not nuts about me going at night classes because it's a winding road back to our house in the country. So I usually hit lunch class.
Okay.
2 or 3 times a week.
Okay. Is that a pretty Yeah. Is that a pretty good sized class, the lunch class?
It is.
That's good.
Quite big. Amazing. And girls come too. There's usually 3 or 4 girls there, as well as several other guys, 10, 12, or 14 guys.
Yeah.
So now, it's a good class.
How do you handle training with the younger, bigger, sweaty men in the class? How do you handle that? Well, I mean, I'm sure it's like second nature now, right? But as a white belt going in, there had to be some hesitancy there, right?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I do have to tell you though that, right after I started, the girls in the locker room would say, Elaine, if you're rolling with the guys, you got to keep your mouth shut because they will drip all over your face. And I went, oh, yeah. And we'd go in and say, man sweat. Because guys sweat through their gi.
Oh, yeah.
Girls don't do that. Guys definitely do.
Yeah.
So, that's part of the fun of jiu-jitsu. Truly, I had someone ask me, what is the best thing about jiu-jitsu? And I said, well, or the worst thing. And I said, well, the worst thing actually is probably rolling around with sweaty guys. And they said, what's the best thing? I said, rolling around with sweaty guys. You know what I'm saying? It's, they're fun and they're nice to me. Now, if I'm going to roll, especially now with a fairly new white belt, the professor is going to warn him to not hurt me.
Yeah, of course.
Ego comes into play with young guys, especially. Yeah. They don't want to be tapped by a little old lady. And I've done it a few times. So they're just warned, you don't muscle me out if they get frustrated.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you do as far as recovery and, getting, if you're training 5 days a week and ready for Worlds, there had to be a recovery regimen in there. Is that something that you put a lot of thought into?
Well, mainly I just get home and die for a day or two. A real big regimen besides just trying to stay on my feet some and take some Tylenol maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I don't have a particular regiment. I don't know. At your age, you may do this too. I don't know. But when I get up in the morning, it's like those first 5 steps are like dying. And then
Yeah.
I get loosened up and I'm good. I have to go feed the horses. So I have to get up and go do something.
You have no choice. Yeah. 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 So it's like an
They're at
active
the barn
recovery.
calling, Mommy.
Yeah. 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 It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, I don't have horses, but I have these two little poodles, and they're, they go from groom to feral in like 24 hours, but but their nails are trimmed and somehow they can still curl them and make little tap dance noises on the hardwood floors to get me to, yeah, get up and get moving. And after a rough night of training, I do not want to get up. It's so hard. It's so hard. But yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the harder it gets. It does. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It's funny, like I didn't realize this until I was a jiu-jitsu coach. We get away with asking women like how old they are and how much they weigh, especially when they're going to compete. You know what I mean? So how how old were you when you did your first competition?
I think I say 70. I was fixing to turn 71.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think I was 70.
So you had some experience. You were still a white belt though, right? Or were you, was
No,
that?
I just got my blue belt when I went to the World
Yeah.
Masters competition, and I think I got the blue belt because my coach wanted me to go, and so he just decided, okay, you need to be a blue belt, so you'll get a blue belt.
That's
So
awesome.
I was, yeah, it's
Yeah.
scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's only getting bigger and bigger, the Masters Worlds.
Ooh,
This
it
year was
is.
insane, wasn't it?
Yes. Wow.
And the funny thing is, like when I being a an instructor, and we do like gi classes and no gi classes, there's always this like gi versus no gi, like I don't want to call it a rivalry, but there's like some words exchanged, right? And someone once told me, oh, the gi's dying, like it's all no gi now. That couldn't be farther from the truth. There were
You're right.
10,000 competitors that week in Las Vegas.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
I did a no-gi class once. A visiting lady asked me to do it with her, and I really enjoyed it, but just don't have the time to do all the classes I would like to do. I'd like to do the boxing class. I like boxing. I
Yeah.
do more judo too, but I ain't got the time
Yeah.
or don't want to take the time.
Yeah. So tell me about my wife is a brown belt, and she
Ooh,
is she's I can say this out loud, I think. She's 49. Yes, she's 49, and she's gonna kill me for saying that out loud, but I'm gonna say it anyway. She doesn't listen to the show, so she's never gonna hear this. But but she's 49, and she has a really hard time finding competitors that are, female number one, her age, her weight class, her belt. Tell me about that. Is that frustrating for you? Because you seem like you're just ready to go.
you know it. I only had one competitor in my group. There were two that weighed less than me in Master 7, and there were three that were way over, like 150 pounds or so above me. But that's a lot for Master 7.
Yeah.
That's 7. The first one I went to, there were only two other girls, and that was it.
Wow. Wow.
And that's usually the way it goes. There's one or two girls. So I've got a lot of medals, but not particularly for, you know, I lose and I get a silver medal or a bronze.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started when I was
They give me
40.
a medal for showing up and trying.
Well, you know what? I get a lot of questions about that. And my wife won Worlds. She took first at Worlds.
Wonderful.
There were 4 women in her bracket, which is rare. And
Yes.
and one of them didn't show. So she went directly into the final, and she won her match. And we're driving back from Las Vegas, and I was in tears. I was so happy for her. Like, she worked so hard to get there, And I was in tears. And, she says, well, I only had one match. And do you think that makes a difference? I said, you can only fight who they put in front of you. The real challenge is getting there, the training. So many things have to go right in order for us to get to Masters Worlds, right? We all have lives outside of jiu-jitsu. There's injuries around every corner. Every roll could be catastrophic if it goes wrong. And just getting there is the challenge, right?
And there's how many women are not even doing any kind of exercise, much less jiu-jitsu at our age, over, in the 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s like me. I mean, we're a rare group.
Yeah.
Especially my age, we're real rare.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you what, when at Masters World, I saw you in the crowd and I wanted to say hello, but you were getting bombarded with people. It was like from every corner. I was like, maybe I'll catch her later. And I never did. I regret it. I really wanted to come up and introduce myself. How do you handle that? Going from Alabama, you probably keep to yourself a lot. You're on a farm and then you go to Masters Worlds and you're Jiu-Jitsu grandma.
It's the biggest honor of my life to have people come up and want to talk to me or take a picture. I mean, what could be nicer? It's just because I'm just a little old lady, Alex. There's nothing particularly special about me, and yet they treat me so kindly. I just it's an honor. It's a great honor for me. It really is.
I think it's more than just that. I think it's, when at any age in jiu-jitsu, we all know how hard it is. And, you mentioned it, getting up in the morning. It's hard for people in their 30s, and when they train really hard. But to be able to do that, day in and day out, and, live the family life that you're living, have, you're a marriage of 55 plus years, and still manage to get to that start line at Master Worlds. That's really special. So you're downplaying it a little bit. It's a lot more special than you think. And I think I really find it inspiring, obviously, but I think it's really nice that people want to acknowledge, acknowledge your efforts in getting to that starting line.
Yeah, that's nice of them to do that.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It is.
So there's, I'm using the word celebrity because you have this persona, right? You're Jiu-Jitsu grandma. How do you handle the bullpen? How do you stay focused when everybody still wants a piece of you, like a little picture, maybe say hello? How do you keep yourself focused? Or do you?
I'm not sure I do. I prepare a lot mentally before I get there, but until I'm usually a little nervous or a lot nervous before I step on the mat. But once you're on the mat, it's too late to be nervous about anything.
Yeah.
Or, it's starting now. There's nothing you can do about it. You just get in there and do what you have to do. I don't stand in the corner and hum or anything. I just don't do that. I'd rather stand around and talk to everybody and get my mind off of what's fixing to happen so I don't get too nervous.
Yeah.
And that's just me. Other people do it very differently. I'd rather just wander around and talk to everybody first.
I can't figure that piece out because people say, oh, I need an hour to get in my head, and, I get a warm up in and then I listen to music. But then I see a friend of mine and I'm like, oh, I know that guy. And I just walk over and say hello. Or I'm in the little warm up area, which I'm a big germaphobe. So if I see somebody walking around with no shoes on, I don't want to go anywhere near where they were. So I just stick in a little corner. But yeah, so, at our age, the people that we compete against, we've probably been competing against since we were white belts. And it changed a little bit for me because I started jiu-jitsu so late and I got my black belt at almost 50. A lot of the people that I fight are legends in the sport. So I never met them, right? But there's other folks that I've been competing with since we were white belts or blue belts. And so, so I don't know, it just becomes a big BS session in the bullpen sometimes. But I don't know that there's a right or wrong way to get yourself mentally ready, right?
There's not. And, when I was younger, and by that I mean in my early 70s, I would go down a class like to Master 6 or Master 5 or up a weight just to have a fight.
Wow.
It didn't, I can't do that now because my professor will not let me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's too big a gap because I was fighting a girl that was almost 12 years younger than me. That is a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a
Yeah.
lot. And I was overmatched. Gladys was really strong and she knew what she was doing. She
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Tough woman, tough woman.
Yeah. There's a
Sweet
guy
as
up here.
pie.
What's that? Sweet as
She
pie.
was sweet as pie.
Yeah, I have a friend out here, Joe Solario. I've known Joe since I was a blue belt and he was a brown belt, and he has to come down several age groups to get matches. So he and I have been in the same bracket a few times, and he is such a tough guy. He is such a tough guy, and he just brings it every single time. I love him, but he worries me a little bit because he'll come down 3 age groups. Yeah, and
That's a lot.
that's a lot. That's a lot. But
It
he's,
is.
yeah. So but at the same time, like me, he started a little bit later. He has a extensive wrestling background. So he has that going for him, right? But as far as jiu-jitsu goes, he started a little bit later. So coming in, there's very few competitors for him. So he has to, get the fights where he wants. And funny story, my wife, her name's Amy. My wife, Amy, never liked going down age groups. Not because she felt overmatched, because she's a very strong, like, physical woman. But this is funny. She would say, they get makeup all over my gi. Like, who wears who wears makeup at jiu-jitsu? So it's a younger, sometimes she has to go down to adult and fight.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. So
my hats off to her. I mean,
it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well.
Good for her. Congratulations, though. That is really tough.
That's tough. Yeah. She's super jealous, by the way, that we're doing this interview, and she's not here to listen. So I'm very happy.
Oh man, I'd love to meet her.
Yeah, you will. I promise you will. I won't be as shy next time when I see you. But tell me about how do you prepare for the big competitions? Do you progressively do like smaller competitions to get yourself ready, or do you just say that's the one I'm going to? How does that work? How many competitions do you do throughout the year?
There's the only 2 competitions that will have any match from me will be Worlds and Pans. That's it.
Yeah.
Anything else they're not going to have anywhere even near me. It's been probably 5 years since I fought like in Mississippi or in Birmingham because there's nobody to fight.
Yeah.
If I don't go down, and now I really, I don't want to fight somebody my daughter's age.
Right. Yeah.
Which really would be, that's what I would do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a big gap. That's such a big gap. I did, so I'm a Masters 5, and I did Masters 3 for Jiu-Jitsu World League. And I did Masters 3, and I'm a middleweight, and I went up to heavyweight. And that was rough. That was rough. You can't really appreciate how much bigger people are until they grab you.
Oh, that's the truth. Or they're on top of you. If they're doing a heavy side control and they weigh 30 pounds more than you or something.
Yeah.
It's hard because I'm not a big person. I'm 4'11", 110 pounds. Yeah. It's I get squished a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, this is from what I read. You did I'm not sure how to put, you're an equestrian, right? You did some competitive horseback riding. That's got to be a pretty tough sport also, right? There's got to be some toughness associated with that. I can't imagine you stay on the horse all the time.
Well, I was doing, it's a somewhat of an endurance ride where you ride 4 or 5 hours the first day and then turn around the next day and ride 4 or 5 hours and then just stop in the middle, to do whatever the judge wants you to do with your horse. It's tiring. They get you up at 6 in the morning. The sun's barely coming up. The horses are just, they want to go.
Yeah.
And I had a great horse, but he's very large, and it was hard to cool him down in the middle of the race. You have to get off, take the saddle off, sponge him off. That was, the smaller Arabs do better. The Arabians do better on those kind of races.
Oh, really?
Sure.
Okay, so is yours like a big Arabian or?
No, he's not an Arabian. He's a Missouri Foxtrotter.
Oh,
And a big
nice.
one at that. So,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I grew up in South Texas, and
oh,
my neighbor was a pro roper, and he would take me out to his ranch, and his horse was, I think he was like a racehorse that didn't quite cut it, but that horse looked like a racehorse. I mean, he looked every bit a racehorse, and he was intimidating. And I think the horse kind of knew it. I think they have personalities, right? And he knew he could bully
sure.
me a little bit. You know what I mean? He'd bite at me and
Yeah.
stuff like that. He was mean.
Woo. I don't have a horse like that in my barn. If he's going to be a biter or a kicker, I'm not interested in having him in my barn. They're going to be out of there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
expect a well-mannered horse.
yeah. Do
Uh,
you still find time to ride?
we've been moving around quite a bit, so I haven't ridden very much. But just in the last few months, my horse has foundered, which means he is really not rideable anymore
Okay.
for any distance. I can maybe go out 15, 20 minutes in the woods. I have another horse here that I can ride. I have not done that this summer, so I'm sort of, it's depressing, really, to
Yeah,
lose your favorite horse over
yeah,
something like that. But so my riding, I'm probably tapering off more than I would have, because
yeah.
we used to go out and ride 2 or 3 hours just for the fun of it,
Wow. Okay.
through the woods. I
Yeah.
trailered him all over the southeast. I had a trailer that's a living quarters horse trailer, so we'd all go out and a bunch of girls and ride. It was great fun. It's
Oh,
great
that's
fun.
fun. Yeah. How many
Yeah,
horses
oh,
can you
yeah.
put in the trailer?
Three go in my trailer, but I normally only took one or two
Okay. Okay.
um, with me. Hauling three in the big trailer that's a hard drive because
Yeah.
you're pulling a lot of weight behind you.
Yeah.
Have to be careful. I don't let my husband drive my trailer because I don't trust it. He
Oh my
wants to
goodness.
drive it like a car. It's not a car. You
Yeah.
got no stopping power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Do you ever get out, going back to jujitsu, do you ever get out and go to other academies and just to like open mats or anything like that? Do you ever get a chance to do that?
I We have an academy down in Birmingham, a Gracie Baja, and there a Coral Belt came in there and began teaching down there. Master Papa, I think they call him Papa. Wonderful guy in his 60s. And I went down there and did a whole week with him. He's been up to our gym
Nice.
too. I mean, a super nice guy. I really enjoyed being in his classes. And I won't go back down there. Sometime I've gone over. There's another one over 20 or 30 minutes. I've been over there a few times. I haven't been out of the state in jiu-jitsu because
Okay.
I don't travel like that.
Yeah, yeah. No, the reason I asked that is even as a well, especially as a when you have a colored belt on your waist and you go to an open mat, people are like, "Oh, I want to try this, I want to see what they've got," right? You ever get pushed like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Oh, I got the purple belt, but then I felt like I needed to earn it.
Mm,
That's I think a lot of people feel like that.
yeah.
And I asked my professor a few weeks ago, I said, Professor Kaliffa, could you just sort of stall me at the purple belt for a while? And he would tell me how to do my job. And I went, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so Amy says to me one time, she goes, I don't want to get my black belt until I'm absolutely ready. And she's going on and on, like, I have to wait, I have to wait. And I just said, it's so cute that you think you have a say in it. That's so cute.
There it is. And nobody feels like they are ready for the next belt. They just
Oh.
don't,
I
you know?
never did. I never felt like when my professor would put the belt on, I always felt like you said, I felt like I needed to earn it. So I would sign up for a tournament like right away. 'Cause that's kind of how we came up, in the tournament kind of phase.
Right.
It just made sense to me. So my professor told me when I was going to get my black belt. So I signed up for a tournament that was, I think it was 3 days after, maybe. Yeah. So
Wow.
people found out that I was getting my black belt because they saw my name on the tournament list. They're like, you signed up as a, yeah, I know I signed up as a, yeah. So then it was
Oh,
the
man.
Phoenix Open, and I fought, um, oh gosh, Troy Acker, and he reaped, so he got disqualified. So I won my first black belt match. And I love you,
Oh.
Troy. You're a good man. And then the second person I fought was a gentleman named Sidney Silva. And Sidney I didn't know this at the time, but he was a judo black belt. Yeah. He was a third degree jiu-jitsu black belt. So he'd been doing jiu-jitsu. He'd been a black belt longer than I'd been doing jiu-jitsu. And yeah. And I believe he got his black belt from Hickson Gracie. So very good lineage. Yeah. I'm glad because I don't study my opponents. I don't want to know anything about them. Thank goodness, because I would have been so nervous. But that was my first experience. But like you said, like the belt feels a little heavy. And what would be like if someone were to ask you, how do you earn that belt? What would be your response to that? And not the same black. Let's say someone gets their purple belt and they're not quite sure how would they earn it?
I don't know. I think you just have to keep coming to class.
Yeah.
You just keep at it.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
Right.
I'm not sure you can. The professor tells you when you earn it. I don't ever feel like I earned anything, but I learned more. But at my age, I know more. I just can't do more.
Yeah.
Than when I was 69. I was a lot sprier than I am at 75, almost 76.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mentally, I don't feel any different, but boy, I can tell things are harder.
Yeah.
Things are harder.
Yeah. It's when I was like I said, when I started when I was 40, and I remember sitting on the mat, and I was 42. I'm sitting on the mat at an open mat, and I was like, man, I lost a step, and then I had a similar moment when I was 46. I was like, man, I lost another one. And then at 50, I was like, I don't know how many more steps I can lose, but I definitely lost at least one more. You know what I mean? It just progressively gets harder and harder and harder. And like you said, in your mind, all I have to do is this, but then I have to outsource it to, the old chassis. So yes, yeah. That's all I've got. That's all I've got. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So how do you approach training when are you a guard puller? Are you a guard pull sweep? Are you a takedown kind of person? Do you like to play top? Do you like to play bottom? What do you like to do?
I never pull guard, or rarely, because I don't want anybody on top of me.
Yeah.
you know, if I can do a judo throw or a sweep or some, otogari, sorry. Anything like that, I'd try that. Most of the time, people pull guard on me.
Yeah.
I mean, that's happened pretty much almost every match that I've been on. So I need to learn how to play top a little better, probably than I'm doing at the moment. But
yeah.
Some days I do really well, other days not so much.
Yeah, it's we all have those days. It's the hammer and nail days, right? Sometimes you're one and sometimes you're the other. So.
And two, sometimes they're teaching things in class that physically I probably just can't do.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times the professor will come by and I'll say, look, this is not going to work for me. And he'll modify it a little bit to help me out. That's good. And other times I just will practice it, but I know that's not something I would ever do because I'm just not good at it. I'm not agile enough or, flexible enough, that sort of thing.
Well, I love that because, so many people will, I don't want to say they're making excuses, but they see something they probably won't do or use, and they distance themselves from that. And then, but what happens when it's being done to you? Right.
That's exactly the point. You got to know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
That's why I work regardless of whether I'm going to use it or not. I'm going to try to get it down just in my head a little bit.
Yeah. And is your focus more on the fundamentals? Do you focus more on fundamentals, or do you try to, I'm not saying like, berimbolo or anything like that, but do you play more of a closed guard or an open guard? What do you like to play there?
Are you talking about when I'm on the bottom?
Yeah, when you're on bottom. Because inevitably we all get swept, right? I mean,
we do.
Yeah.
And, I can only hold a closed guard so long. My legs are short. They back up. It's open, and then it's an open guard. So, I'm going to do a spider guard, something of that nature if I can.
Yeah.
Just whatever comes to mind, depending on what they're doing.
Yeah,
What they're doing.
Yeah.
If they're younger or newer, like white belts, a lot of times you can sweep them because they just don't know.
Yep. That's so much fun, though.
How to defend it. Didn't it?
Yeah, I had a gentleman that was looking for a jiu-jitsu academy to train. He had never trained jiu-jitsu, but he'd done wrestling for a long time. And, typical firefighter wrestler, bent up ears and just stocky and really strong. And, he's in his probably late 20s, early 30s. So I thought, and I was rolling with him, and I thought, well, I've got to get him in my closed guard as soon as possible, or it's going to go very badly, right? So I did the same exact thing 4 different times. So I just pulled him into my closed guard. I did a scissor sweep. I mounted him. I cooked him, and then I armbarred him 4 times in a row. And then we finished the round. We shook hands. He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to sign up."
Yeah,
So it's like a sales pitch, right? You just do the fundamentals. So it's
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
In the long run, the fundamentals are going to be your mainstay. To me, the rest is icing on the cake.
It
Or
is.
decorations on the icing, but
Yeah. And I say this all the time to my students, like the fundamentals are the foundation on which this whole thing was built, right? And it's the
absolutely.
cornerstone of self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
If you can learn just basic fundamentals, you can defend yourself pretty well.
Yes.
And like you said, the icing on the cake, it looks cool. You don't need it, but it looks cool. Yeah. So, going back to what we were saying about the things that we probably wouldn't use, but we need to learn. I have to prepare myself almost spiritually, almost to that level whenever I'm teaching like berimbolo stuff, because I can do it, but I suffer the next morning because of it. My spine isn't what it used to be. My flexibility has never been great, but I'm just getting older. So
Sure.
I have to get myself to a point where I know I'm going to suffer tomorrow, but my students need to know this. Right.
Right.
So I show it, and I flat out tell them, you are never going to see me do this. Like, unless it's like, I don't know, that the world is falling apart and I have to do it. But I still show it, and there's things like, some things in half guard that I hate to say this, but I kind of disagree with them. So I don't like to use them, but I still show it because I want my students to understand, like, hey, this may happen. And, and it's going to happen at the worst time, like in the middle of a tournament.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. So tell me about, and I'm not trying to spill the beans here for your competitors, but tell me about going into competition. What's your game plan when you typically go into competition?
Survive. Maybe. I'd have to tell you, Alex, I probably will not do any more competitions just because my age has gotten so far up that I'm not competitive in any way to anybody I'm fighting. And I don't think well, I don't want to say it's not fair to me. It's probably fair to them. But I think I'm more likely to get hurt now.
Yeah.
It's sort of disappointing, truthfully, that I just can't hang with the younger girls.
Yeah.
By younger, I mean early 60s.
Early 60s. Yeah.
I do okay in my gym, with the women, but that's not competition, and so it's a little bit different. I mean, they fight hard, but they're just not trying to totally kill me like in competition. I mean,
yeah. Yeah. Do you know who Richard Bressler is?
I've read some things he wrote.
Yeah. So I read his book. I've had him on the show. I really enjoy, like, it kind of made me feel like I still have, I will have a place in jiu-jitsu for the rest of my life. Right. Some people, get that competitor thing, and they kind of, that's almost their identity,
Right.
And I think it's bigger than that. Like, Richard realized he wasn't going to be a high level competitor, but he could coach really well. Right. And there's folks that come into my academy that, they're the older guys, my age, me, and, they may be white belts on the mat, but they're black belts in life. Like, they have a lot of life experience, and they bring a lot to the table for the kids in there,
Yes.
that are going through stuff. And I'm sure you've experienced that where, there's women that are going through things, and you're like, listen, it's going to be okay.
They do.
Yeah.
They ask me, they'll talk to me because I'm I'm an easy person to talk to.
Yeah.
Um, so yes, that does happen. That
Yeah.
does happen.
And I love it. I love that, because we're a community. I mean, we try to murder each other on a daily basis, but we're still a community, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah. And I think that's a big part of it. I mean,
It is.
I still bring things to the table for my young competitors, even though, can I match them? Probably not, right? Unless I cheat, which I do a lot to them, only to them. But I still bring stuff to the table. I can help them break down film. I can help them, mentally. That's a big piece too,
It is.
At our age, we realize that like, we have our roles and we have our identity, right? And they're very different things, losing a match doesn't mean I'm less of a person, right? But to some people, they're devastated and they need someone like you and I to just chat them up a little bit, and
Well, that they tried. There are plenty on the mats that don't.
Yep.
They're afraid to compete. Well, I'm not afraid to.
Yeah.
It may not go real well for me, but I'm not afraid of it. I'm not. Every time I step on that mat, there are plenty of, my friends wouldn't even consider doing that.
Yeah.
They're missing a lot.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me is if I ever got in a really serious situation, attacked or something, I've got some tools in my toolbox that they would be surprised that I know.
100%.
I may not get out there a lot, but it's going to be a fight. If they're going to try to,
Yeah.
Between the judo and jiu-jitsu, I could defend myself surprisingly more than most women my age. Let's put it that way.
100%. Yeah. No, I believe that.
That's a big plus with jiu-jitsu and women, well, and men too at this day and age. Sure.
Yeah. I think especially with a lot of young men, they're still trying to figure out who they are. Maybe, the opportunities. I think what I was really fortunate growing up, because, going out to play sports, like for example, when I played football as a kid, and I'm talking like 5th and 6th grade, I asked my mom, I said, hey, when I was little, like when I played football, like what did you have to spend? Because I had just put my son in Pop Warner and I was out $2,000 day one. Yeah. Yeah. So I said, what did you have to spend when I played football? She goes, oh, I just bought a mouthpiece and some cleats, because everything else was provided. It wasn't great equipment, but everything else was provided. And today parents are having such a hard time, getting kids in sports because it's so expensive. So these kids, I call them kids. Anybody under the age of 40 is a kid to me. But these kids come in and they haven't done organized sports, or they're playing video games a lot, and they're just trying to figure out how to be in this community, and be. I like to tell them that you're going to be in very uncomfortable situations with very good people. So that's one thing that I feel drives me to do what I do. I want to help these young men and young women like overcome that gap that they have. There's a gap in there. You know what I mean?
It is.
Yeah.
I do. Most of my kids have played, well, all my kids played sports. In fact, my oldest daughter played football with the boys, or in the 8th and 9th grade. They didn't have a girls team and she wanted to play. And the coach said, hey, at her age, she's more mature than the boys are there. So she's about as strong as they are. She's really fast and we need a runner. So they let her play. I did have to make a special bra for her.
Yeah.
And we added some padding to her shoulders, but that's it. They played their offense and defense for 2 years.
No kidding.
She was their second best tackler at 5'2" and 110 pounds.
Hey, there's a lot to say about determination,
Tough
right?
woman.
That's so great. That's so great. So, okay. So, let's, I want to ask you one more question, and I'm trying to phrase it right. My brain is scattered right now. For someone that is coming into, let's just say, maybe a new empty nester that's trying to like figure out what they want to do now, because that's a whole new identity, right? I don't want to say you're losing that identity, but we went through it, and Amy and I struggled with it because
Did you really?
we really did. Because we've been mom and dad for 20 something years. What do we do now? And it's like, I guess enjoy it, right? But and that kind of helped us kind of blossom into other things, right? Find other activities, find other people, other communities. what would be your recommendation for somebody that looks at jiu-jitsu at, say, they're in their mid-50s, they're looking at jiu-jitsu going, maybe. How would you give them that nudge?
Well, my gym lets you come free for a week.
Ooh, nice.
Every class you want to come to. I said, go try it. If you may like it. At least you'll know. You don't have to put any money down. They'll welcome you, and jiu-jitsu is not for everybody. It's really a close contact sport.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't want that, that close of contact. For me, it's fun. I have one daughter who would know. She would never do that. My middle daughter. She likes her personal space.
Of course. Yeah.
But gyms, I don't know if your gym or some other gyms do that, but I really think that's a very good idea.
Yeah.
To let people come in and give it a try, see how they like it. Yeah. I can tell them how wonderful it is, but until they actually try it, how would they know?
Yeah.
So it is an odd sport. I mean, for older people, especially women.
Yeah.
But we have had older men come in lately in the last few years that are in their 50s, late 50s or early 60s. I've been surprised.
Yeah.
A lot of them at Worlds. Did you notice that?
I did. Yeah. Well, I mean,
had a lot of men.
I had 35 or I think 39 people in my bracket this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
No kidding.
But about 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago, there might have been 4 in the black belt divisions, maybe 6, right? And I remember I was a blue belt at Pan Am's, and there was a gentleman who was probably in his 60s, and I remember, I think the brackets only went to Masters 4. So this is a Master 6 or 7 going to Masters 4 and competing and doing his best. But it wasn't until, I want to say 2017 that they started increase the Masters divisions. And I think really the people that spearheaded that were the women competitors. They were saying, we want our own brackets. I think they might've had like Masters 1 and Masters 2, and that's it. Yeah. So it was pretty brutal. But they led the charge and they got their own brackets, and the IBJJF pushed back and said, well, you're going to have 2 people in your bracket. They're like, good, let's do it. But I think, 10 years from now, I hope that we get 50 women in those brackets, at Masters 5 and Masters 6, and you and I can say, hey, we were there when it was damn near impossible to get a match.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, Elaine, it's been a true honor to have you on the show. I was very excited when you replied to the message, and it's been awesome. I really enjoy your energy. I enjoy watching you on the mats. And if this was your last competition, I'm glad I was there to see it. But let everybody know how they can find you on Instagram or any kind of the socials that you're on.
Well, the Instagram, of course, is Jiu-Jitsu_Grandma. So it's, and if you Google Jiu-Jitsu Grandma, you'll find me a lot on that too. I noticed the other day, my granddaughter said, you're all over the internet if you Google that. And I went, really? So, interviews, they do YouTube interviews and things like that. It's fun, Alex. Thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure. And I just want to say, just from my wife, Amy, and from my wife, Amy and I, is you are truly inspiring. I know you probably get that a lot, but I just need you to know that. And I'm getting kind of choked up saying it because you're giving a lot of people hope, and keep spreading the message, keep posting on Instagram. You're doing a lot of people a lot of good. Okay.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. You take care.
I'll do it. Bye-bye.
This
episode of the BJJ Foxcast is brought to you by BioPro. BioPro is an all-natural alternative to prescription human growth hormone, which aids in recovery, anti-aging, metabolism, libido, immunity, skin health, cognition, sleep, and stress. Just 1 vial per day provides a substantial boost to all of these growth factors. Okay, so that's what they want me to say. Here's what I know as an aging grappler. I've been using BioPro Plus and the nighttime variant, BioPro Plus Cortisleep, for several months, and it feels like I've grown a 3rd lung. My gas tank is noticeably bigger, my recovery is faster, and I'm back on the mats much quicker, not just between training sessions, but between rounds. Now you can get $30 off your first order of BioPro when you use the code Foxcast at www.bioproteintech.com. That's code Foxcast for $30 off your first order at www.bioproteintech.com. Thank you, BioPro.